Secretary Noem, your opening statement includes a lot of data and numbers, but it doesn't mention asylum. How many people have claimed asylum since January 21st of this year?
I don't have that number readily available to me right now, but I can get that for you.
Do you have a sense? Is it
I don't.
dozens, hundreds, thousands?
I don't.
You are aware, are you not, that asylum is a lawful pathway into the country?
I am.
And are you aware of how and why the United States implemented our asylum laws?
We grant asylum to individuals who are feeling threatened specifically by their government through violent activities that are perpetuated in their own home countries.
Right, and it was originally implemented because Jews fleeing from the Holocaust were not allowed to seek refuge in this country, even though they clearly had no country to go to and had nowhere else to go. And those Jews in the Holocaust were rounded up frequently by the Gestapo in Nazi Germany, a secret undercover police unit that we know rounded up the Jews and sent them to the gas chambers. One of the things that I want to address with you briefly is, I think you said your testimony was that agents who are wearing masks do so as part of their undercover disguise. Is that right?
So if the need arises to where they have activities that require them to be undercover at times or to protect their identity to continue their work and their duties.
So if
that
an
may be
agent
utilized.
is conducting an arrest and approaches an individual without their mask on, and then when alerted to being videotaped, puts their mask on, that's not to protect their identity from the individual who's being arrested, right?
It could be, Congressman. I don't know the specifics of the situation.
Is it the
you're
policy of
referencing,
the
but it
Department of Homeland Security now that undercover ICE agents are permitted to wear face masks when executing their official duties?
Sir, it is allowed that they can, if it protecting their
Is it in the
activity is an
policies?
imperative part
Do you
of
address
their-
face masks in the
I'll have
policies?
to look and see if it's in our written policies.
Because
I'm not
it's
certain, but
quite
it's
ironic, and
No.
I agree with the administration that is trying to ban face masks from anti-Semitic protests on campus, and yet our own law enforcement are wearing face masks to hide their identities.
We are implementing the exact same policies that Joe Biden had in place for his.
That is not any policy that I was
did
aware
not
of when I
change any
worked
of
with
the
the Department of
policies.
Homeland Security.
Gentleman's time has expired.
What Congressman Dan Goldman did in that hearing was more than political oversight. It was a moral interrogation of power. His questioning of Secretary Kristi Noem cut through bureaucratic talking points and got to the heart of a much larger issue: who we are as a nation and what kind of country we're becoming when law enforcement operates in shadows, faces covered, and accountability buried. Let's start with the context. Goldman begins by pointing out something deeply telling: that Secretary Noem's opening statement was packed with numbers and statistics, yet completely ignored one fundamental word: asylum. That's not an oversight, that's an erasure. Because asylum isn't just a policy detail, it's one of the most essential moral commitments the United States has made since World War II. Goldman reminds the hearing, and all of us, that our asylum laws were born from a moment of global shame. When Jewish refugees fleeing the Holocaust were turned away from U.S. shores, many were sent back to Europe, to their deaths. America vowed never to repeat that mistake. Our asylum system was built so that the persecuted could find safety here, not rejection. So when today's officials treat asylum seekers as criminals or threats, they're turning their backs on one of the most defining promises this country ever made. Goldman draws a powerful parallel, not to inflame but to illuminate, between history and the present. When he invokes the Gestapo, he's not comparing ICE agents to Nazis. He's reminding us that secret, masked, and unaccountable enforcement units are always dangerous, no matter what country or era they operate in. Because the moment law enforcement hides its face from the public, democracy begins to dim. And that's exactly what's happening. We now have reports of ICE agents wearing masks during arrests, concealing their identities even as they seize people in daylight. When confronted, Noem's defense was vague: they may wear masks to protect their identity. But Goldman's follow-up exposed the absurdity. These agents weren't undercover in a sting operation, they were executing arrests in public. The moment they realized they were being filmed, they covered their faces, not to protect themselves from suspects, but from the public eye. That's not law enforcement, that's fear of transparency. Goldman highlighted the irony and hypocrisy of the situation. The same administration that seeks to ban face masks during campus protests in the name of public accountability is defending masked government agents conducting secretive raids. When protesters wear masks, it's condemned. When government agents do it, it's excused. That's a dangerous double standard. This exchange matters because it reveals a deeper erosion of trust. A democracy cannot function when the people enforcing its laws are faceless and unaccountable. Law enforcement must operate in the light, subject to oversight, transparency, and ethical restraint. When it hides behind anonymity, power becomes untraceable and abuse becomes inevitable. Democrats like Dan Goldman are fighting to keep that light alive, not just for immigrants, but for every American who believes that justice must be seen to be trusted. They understand that immigration isn't just about borders, it's about identity, morality, and the rule of law. It's about whether the United States still stands as a refuge for those fleeing violence, or whether it's becoming a place that mirrors the fear they escaped. Secretary Noem's evasions in that hearing weren't just bureaucratic stumbles. They were symptoms of a system that's lost its moral compass. A government that can't tell you how many people have sought asylum, that can't defend why its agents wear masks, and that can't answer basic questions about due process. That's a government in ethical crisis. Goldman's questioning was a reminder that oversight isn't obstruction, it's democracy's defense mechanism. It's how we hold power accountable before secrecy becomes standard and cruelty becomes policy. At the heart of this issue are real people, mothers fleeing cartel violence, children escaping persecution, families clinging to the hope that America still means what it once promised, that here you are seen, you are heard, and you have a chance to be safe. If you believe that the United States must live up to its values, that compassion and transparency are not weaknesses but strengths, then pay attention, speak out, and vote for leaders who understand that justice without humanity isn't justice at all. Because the masks being worn by power today are not just hiding faces, they're hiding the truth, and it's up to us to pull them off.